Welcome to Fort Concho National Historic Landmark, which is owned and operated by the City of San Angelo and represents one of the best preserved frontier forts west of the Mississippi. That's a lot of words, but basically what it means is here in San Angelo we have one of the better preserved frontier forts that represents the military life of the post-Civil War era. We have a number of original and restored buildings on the fully cleared parade ground. As we will learn on our tour, some of the buildings have exhibits and many are available for rental by the public to use for parties and weddings and receptions and so forth. We cover approximately 40 acres just south of downtown San Angelo, accessible by South Oak Street. If you can find the Cactus Hotel or downtown on South Oaks, you go over the bridge and over the railroad tracks, and 2 seconds later you're right on top of us here. It's not been a quick or easy restoration process. The fort started in 1867 as a fort. It was closed in 1889 when the Army moved away from areas that had already considered civilized, and it's been a museum and a preservation project of the City of San Angelo since the late 1920s, early 1930s, so we've been at this for nearly 80 years. Again, as you'll see on the tour, there's a lot behind the scenes of the fort, buildings to see and buildings that the public can rent and enjoy in another fashion. Among the many buildings that the fort has for public events and rentals is the commissary building, the building in which we're standing right now. Its historic value is that it is truly the first building erected at Fort Concho during the winter of 1867-1868. And as such is the oldest building in the city, in the county, and probably for another 10,000 square miles. The neat thing about it, in addition to its large size, is that it has the original wood trusses up on the roof that hold the roof together. These trusses have looked down upon 142 years of history. Its history beginning when this building, the commissary, was the food storage building for the fort and its soldiers. It's had an interesting history after the Army left it in 1889. It served a wide variety of storage facilities when the fort became a civilian community subdivision. In the 1930s, I think 1938, the museum board wanted to acquire it for exhibits and displays. And not everything goes according to plan, and from what I've read in the records, the city did acquire it in the late 1930s, but didn't give it to the fort as a display building. They took it and turned it into the vehicle maintenance shop. So this was the city garage for nearly 40 years. The floor over which we're standing had grease pits. Those trusses had engines hanging down from them, and out front there were 4 to 6 garage bays in which there were various storage of city vehicles such as buses. In the late 1970s, the city and the school district got together and created the new vehicle maintenance facility, which we now enjoy over on St. Anne Street. The fort got the building back, and in a partnership with the Junior League, restored it to its current wonderful condition. The league outgrew this building about 10 years ago, and they moved on to other quarters, and we now wholly control it and rent it. It has a terrific hardwood floor, which your viewers can see, which is suitable for dancing. Has a kitchen in the back and the capability of holding, I would say 150 to 200 folks fairly easily. And over the years, we have rented this out for a wide range of parties, dances, weddings, wedding receptions, meetings, and the like. And it also serves us during the many events that we do here, ranging from Christmas at Fort Concho, which will be over the first weekend of December, to such things as the Mesquite Festival, our summer programs, and everything in between. We're now in the Quartermaster building, which many folks may remember as the original home of the San Angelo Museum of Fine Arts. This building, like the commissary we saw earlier, was a Fort Concho building when the Army was here in the 1800s. It was the dry goods storage, clothing and hardware and things like that. Again, when the Army left in 1889, the building was given over to civilian purposes, and was used for a variety of storage facilities. I think it was a wool warehouse at one point. In the early 1980s, the Museum Board for Fort Concho and a variety of other far-sighted individuals decided that a good purpose for a restored quartermaster would be an art museum. The city at that time did not have a large central gallery, although it did have some smaller ones which are still with us today. So in a multi-year approach, the fort, the city, the then board of the Museum of Fine Arts, and a wide range of folks created the funding to restore this, and they made it into a terrific facility where the art museum stayed from 1983-84 up until 1999 when they opened their new facility just up the street from us by the river. We took the facility back and we've been able to use it for a wide variety of issues. For instance, you can see some of the Santa Claus equipment here. All of this relates to the upcoming Christmas at Fort Concho, which will be the first weekend of December. The quartermaster turns into a children's crafts area where, for no charge, you can bring your child and do all sorts of interesting crafts things. And then we have 3 or 4 crafts workshops that are a special ticket, which go on throughout the weekend. The beauty of the building is its open space. You can have all sorts of displays here. It's also a rental building. We've had, again, some weddings in here, with one of the great attractions being the balcony, which was an additional structural element that the architect, Mr. Oglesby of Dallas, put in, and it is a very handsome balcony. The upstairs is another section for displays and events if you rent the building. But also it gives the bride someplace at the critical moment of the ceremony to go up the stairs and fling the bouquet into the hands of the awaiting bridesmaids. We have had some wonderful exhibits in here on Western photography, Native American photography, Buffalo soldiers, Western art and architecture. We did our 2003 75th anniversary exhibit in here. And we've had some nice parties and activities, so it's a very, very good building. Like the commissary next door, it too is the oldest building in San Angelo. They were both built the same winter of 1867-68, so we're not sure which one's older, but we'll consider them both twins. Barracks number 5 here at the fort is one of the many buildings the visitors can see, and we're now looking at the clerk's room of barracks number 5, laid out in a manner that perhaps the soldiers would have known back in the 1870s and 1880s. The room is very sparse in its furnishings, very common, but that's the way the Army was. It has a letterpress, a desk, some paper forms, lantern, a basic bed, a little nightstand, not too much more. The clerk was on duty 24/7, so he had to be at the beck and call of the company first sergeant, who had his own room right next door. The overall impression we try to show the visitors is one of, again, the simplicity of an Army building. What's kind of funny is from time to time a veteran of World War II will come in and say, well, gee, nothing much has changed in the last 140 years, because they recognize some of the issues here. The first sergeant had his own room, both because of his rank and also simply because he was in effect, the commander of the company, although there was a lieutenant, 2 lieutenants actually, and a captain. But the first sergeant ran the day-to-day show. He did the daily operations, and so by his stature and the company rank, he deserved his own room. And this room reflects, again, the quarters a first sergeant would have. It's not plush, but compared to his corporals and privates in the company, it certainly had a little more privacy and a little more style to it.